Welcome to the Solemn Vanguard channel. Today we are discussing standard versus premium. As you know, there is a reboot in Vanguard right now. There will be a new season, new cards. You basically get a rotating format where in standard you only get to use the new cards, premium you get to use everything, and so forth. This is not new news. However, many people seem to be discussing what's better. Is standard better? Is premium better? Will premium exist? Will standard exist? All these kinds of questions, and so I thought it'd be interesting to go over the pros and cons of both formats, and then you can decide for yourself which one you'll play, or both. Let's start off with standard. The pros. Obviously, it's more accessible for new players. If a new player wanted to start in G format right now, he or she would have to build decks from scratch with singles from various sets. This can be very hard. Not a lot of shops actually have stock of all these sets. They would have to go online, buy loads of singles. And even those singles are pretty rare because everyone needs staple 4-ofs of everything. And so it's generally just very hard to get into the game in premium or in the format we've had so far. So in that regard, standard is very, very good. Another pro, which is kind of a consequence from that first thing, is everyone starts from zero. So if you're a new player and you pick up a trial deck, you don't automatically get destroyed by a $400 meta deck and just can't do anything. If you were to buy a trial deck in the G era, you would just get destroyed at even the most basic local. Whereas now in standard, that will kind of change a bit. The final pro is it's simpler to play. Now this is not a pro to everyone because the game does get less interactive. But so if you're not a fan of how many interactions you can do, how many things you have to keep track of, how many decisions you have to make in a turn, standard is probably great for you. Now going over the cons of standard, easier to play is one of them as well. If you're like me and you like many interactions, constantly keeping track of 20 things at once, you think, okay, I'm gonna do this thing, to do this thing, to do this thing, and can play a little bit more defensively with this card right now, so I'm gonna do this. Like if you like those decision trees, standard will probably not be that challenging and exciting for you at the start at least. Right now the cards are still very, very basic, and so the game is a little bit more turn your cards sideways rather than, hey, I'm gonna do a really cool combo. Now, some people say, no, the game is way more skillful now. And that's like, that should be a completely different video. It's just not true. Just go back to the Limit Break era. That was a way easier game, end of story. Another con is it's more luck reliant. Because hand sizes shrink and power levels increase, your guard options actually shrivel. And sure, you have higher guard counts on some of those cards, but that doesn't really fix the issue. This means that trigger checks are actually more powerful than ever. If you look back again to that Limit Break era and so forth, triggers had way more impact than they do in the G era. In this latest G era, most top tier decks can easily build 10 card hands, and so they can mitigate the effect a trigger check has due to PG access and G guards. Therefore, you will not be able to guard Vanguard attacks all the time, and so trigger checks actually have way more weight than they used to have. A final con is if you own cards from before, you can't use them anymore. So if you're really attached to your Gurgit or your Altmile or your Tavas deck, well, suck it up because you can't use them in standard. Now before going to the pros and cons of premium, I will say one general thing between the two. Some people are going, oh, standard will be way cheaper than premium because you don't need a G deck. While I guess the basic thing, because like, okay, you need 50 cards instead of 66 cards, there is one major thing people seem to be forgetting. There are generally still the same amounts of triple Rs per clan that you need to run. So if you check, for example, Kagero right now, you still need to get like 3 or something like that triple Rs play sets because they're actual staples for your deck, just like you would in G era. It doesn't really matter which grade those cards are. You're actually just replacing commons in your main deck. So sure, let's say an arbitrary number. Let's say in your G deck you had 12 triple Rs, and that number 12 was divided between your main deck and your G deck. Now you still have 12 triple Rs, they're just all in the main deck. Now the 12 is an arbitrary number, but the point remains the same. Each clan generally still gets a set amount of staples the deck needs to run. And so sure, At the beginning of Standard, it's very likely that it will be cheaper than the current G era because you have so many sets to pick cards from. Really quickly, this format will become just as expensive as the current G format because you will still need RRR staples from various sets. You will just have less commons in your main deck. Now, of course, as ratios start shifting in GBT14, we saw that RRRs were less expensive than they used to be and so forth. That's all true, so ratios change, this could affect the game. In general, just saying Standard will be way cheaper is just plain bogus because in the long term it will probably just even out again and be around the same. With that being said, the main point is basically Standard is very good to reel new people in because it's accessible and it's easier. Now, going into Premium, the pros. You get to use all your cards. So yeah, if you still have loads of cards from the G era, and you don't want to ditch them, Premium might be for you. You can still play your Gurgit decks and your Alt-Might and your Nitros and all that good stuff. Another pro is more clans are available. Sure, over the course of 12, maybe 16 months, Standard will get all clans as well, hopefully. But until that time, we will be quite limited in the clan pools we can choose from and play. So let's say you're a Great Nature player, I'm a Great Nature player. Well, when do we get Standard? I don't know, but for now we don't. So diversity and clan options are definitely a thing in the first 12 to maybe even more months in Premium. Another pro is a more complex gameplay, more interactions. Now obviously in the G format we have right now, there are loads of combos and interactions and decisions to make in a turn. Just like we just discussed in Standard, that's way less the case. However, in Premium there are even more things to consider because suddenly we also get the Standard cards. Suddenly it will become a challenge to actually consider which cards from Standard work with the cards from G. Do you want the draw PGs or do you not want the draw PGs? Do you want triggers with higher guard or do you want triggers with a skill and so forth? So there's suddenly loads of new cards actually making the game way more interesting. So not only was the G format by itself way more complex and engaging already, but now you just have that added layer of depth. Another pro is more deck build options and room for creativity. As we saw in the spoilers right now, Kagero will not have multiple builds with multiple boss monster options. The RRR slots are actually full of solid staples. So some people were hoping that you could choose between 3 or 4 cool boss monsters that are all RRR, but no. The RRRs are Berserk Dragon and the Aimeno or whatever the hell, that grade 1 here. And so there will basically be one Kagero build that's viable. Maybe a few tech slots here and there, but generally that's your choice and there is no sub-clan or option whatsoever. Competitively, there's always the one objectively better list, maybe with a few tech options and so forth. But still, if you want to let your creativity go loose in deck building, in Standard that's not really an option just yet. A final pro in Premium is obviously it's harder to play and thus more skill reliant. I will gladly make an extra video about this because some people, I don't know how, I really don't get how people are trying to even debate this point. There are simply way more decisions to make and one mistake can completely change your game. There's also way less trigger reliance because of your PG and your G guard, and it's just overall more challenging to play. I also get that at the end of a tournament, when you've been through 7 rounds, people are starting to be worn out because G format is just hard to keep up for a whole day. Now to the cons, again, that complexity is not for everyone. And so if you're someone who just wants to have a quick game of fun without too much going on at once, Premium may not be your cup of tea. Finally, Premium is also harder to start from scratch. So a new player would right now, once the new sets start rolling in, they would have to find the staples from that set and that set and that set and those strides and also the standard sets, and suddenly you have 8 sets to search cards from and you'll be forced to go on the net, find the singles, get into forums, they're not always on the sites, and so it's quite a bit harder to actually build your deck when you're just starting out. So to me, those are the pros and cons, the main differences between Standard and Premium. If you disagree, that's fine, pop it in the comments, let's get some discussion going. Personally, I will be playing both. I definitely want to play Standard because new players will be coming in, it makes the game accessible and so forth. However, I definitely look forward to Premium way more than I look forward to Standard. Just being able to play all the cards I actually love right now, being able to find all these new interactions, building the decks, all that kind of stuff makes me interested in the game in general. And so I definitely lean towards Premium as the format of my choice, but I will be playing both 100% certainly. Now, if you found this interesting, please subscribe to the Solemn Vanguard channel and click the bell button to stay up to date. Let's end this video with a question though. First of all, I've asked this before, but now that you watch this video, maybe your mind changed or whatever. So how about you tell me, will you play Standard or Premium? Tell me why, and that's very important. Like, I don't care if you go, oh, I play Standard because it's better. No, give me an actual reason, and let's have some actual discussions going. Maybe I'm totally wrong, maybe someone else is totally wrong, and we can have some back and forth right there. As I said before, subscribe, click that bell button is so important, and I will see you soon. Ciao!